The North Korean nuclear summit is off, so said Donald Trump this morning in an official letter addressed to His Excellency Kim Jong-un, stating, quote, sadly, based on the tremendous anger and open hostility, it is inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting. That's Kim's anger and hostility he's referring to there, not Trump's, if there was any confusion. But realistically, there's every chance this is just a Trumpian negotiating tactic, as the president seemed to hint at when he spoke about the situation just a few hours later.
It's possible that the existing summit could take place or a summit at some later date. If and when Kim Jong-un chooses to engage in constructive dialogue and actions, I am waiting.
As are we. And speaking of constructive dialogue and actions, the NFL has just issued a ruling all but banning them both, notably at the urging of the president. Remember this moment from back in September of last year?
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Commissioner Roger Goodell didn't go quite that far yesterday when he announced that teams will be fined if any of their players or personnel are deemed to be disrespecting the national anthem by kneeling, although players will have the option to stay in the locker room during the anthem if they want. And while Goodell said yesterday it was a unanimous decision, ESPN is reporting no official vote was held. This morning on Trump's favorite show, Fox and Friends, the president weighed in on the decision.
I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but still, I think it's good. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
Shouldn't be in the country? Joining me are former athletic director at Northeastern University Peter Roby. Peter, it's great to see you. As always, former sports anchor Chris Collins. You too, Chris. Great to see you. So, for purposes of this discussion, it's a private business, the NFL. Let's assume, for argument's sake, they can legally do this. It's not a constitutional issue. If you're dying to argue that, feel free. NFL doesn't want their employees in a private business to do something on work time. What's wrong with that? If you want to protest, protest on your own time.
Well, given that there's 70% of the players are black, that the players have concerns about the way the black community is being treated, and they want to bring attention to it, and they want to use the platform, which people have been able to do throughout history, it's unfortunate. The fact that they made this decision without any conferring with the Players Association is also a concern. So those are a couple.
But it's a business, and ratings are down. Some think it's because of concussions. Some think it's because patriotic fans don't like seeing players take a knee. So they made a business decision. I don't want to hurt my business because you feel like saying you're upset with the way police in this country handle their business.
And good for them, but that doesn't mean I have to like it or other people that have concerns have to like it, and maybe they'll vote by not going to the games.
Is the color of the skin of most of the players in the NFL a factor here, Chris Collins?
Listen, first of all, ratings are down 9%. TV viewership overall is down 9%. Okay, you look at 6 of the top 7 rated shows in prime time last year, all football. So no, I'm not buying that argument either. But we always get all upset when athletes don't take a stance. Okay, it really shows us where the power is. The power inevitably will be with those who own. The players, 70% of color, they don't own anything. So they don't have any rights.
If they were 70% white players and most of the protesters are white, would we be doing this?
Completely different deal.
You're not shaking your head. No,
we wouldn't be having this issue.
Completely different deal.
Because the sentiment would be with the players. Because the issue wouldn't be impacting them the way it's impacting the communities of color right now.
You know, Chuck Todd from Meet the Press is on the radio with us today, and he spoke to sort of a perverse outcome of this whole thing when he was speaking about the cluelessness of the NFL. Here's a little piece of what Chuck said.
My gosh, this is the gang that can't shoot straight. They have now incentivized protesting. They have now made it to where people can buy a protest in the NFL. I'll pay your fine. Go ahead. People will crowdsource paying fines.
Do you think this is going to lead to an uptick? I mean, many of us who supported what the players were doing were disappointed because it dissipated as the season went along. Right. Is this going to cause an uptick, as Todd's suggesting, do you think?
Well, sure. I mean, I think players are going to stay in the locker room because they want to get the media to ask them why they weren't on the field so they can then go back and have a conversation about the reasons why they weren't on the field. So it's not going to change anything. The issue is that the owners got tired of leading into highlight shows and being on the front page of the papers with pictures of black NFL players kneeling during the national anthem.
Yeah,
and they want to get off the front page.
I'm not even sure the owners of my home team, the Philadelphia Eagles, Lurie, seem to be supportive of the players. And this guy, Christopher Johnson, here's the CEO of the Jets. Listen to what he had to say. And by the way, one of the ironies, his brother is the ambassador to the UK for the President of the United States. Christopher Johnson, if somebody on the Jets takes a knee, that fine will be borne by the organization, by me, not the players. I never want to put restrictions on the speech of our players, though I prefer that they stand, of course, but I understand if they felt the need to protest, there's some big complicated issues we're all struggling with, and our players are on the front line. Sounds to me he's totally with them.
Well, why do you vote for the modification? Everybody voted in favor of, except San Francisco, who stayed out of it, didn't vote one way or the other. So really trying to play both sides of the fence? Oh, we're really with you?
Sports Illustrated is suggesting that there was no vote. So where it came back that it was unanimous.
It
was a nod.
Why is there, one of the underlying questions, which isn't addressed enough here, it seems to me, why is an anthem played anyway? Why don't I start Greater Boston every night with an anthem for our viewers at home? I'm serious.
Well, first of all, we'd see what you were wearing, and you have jeans on, and that wouldn't work.
It's a secret. Yeah. I'm serious. Why do we need an anthem? We wouldn't even have this. Well, we wouldn't have the issue in the same way. Why is an anthem played?
Well, now that it's become such a part of our lexicon, if you will, then they would find the backlash for not playing it because people would then say the owners and everybody are unpatriotic for that reason. So my question is, what's more unpatriotic? Talking about women's genitalia, the achievement gap between white and black children, the disproportionate number of African Americans that are shot by police when they're unarmed.
Which is what those players are talking about.
Exactly. Or is it a player that takes a peaceful protest, non-violently wanting to bring attention to it?
If you look at anyone who has any voice in the people of color community, it's typically an athlete or an entertainer. So if you strip athletes, 50% athletes, entertainers, if you strip them of that voice, then what does the minority community have as far as trying to make a stance for something that they believe vividly in?
I don't even understand why the NFL has any credibility. I mean, you work with all these leagues, with the NCAA.
Well, I think they lost credibility because they didn't let the players be a part of the vote.
Well, I would argue they lose credibility when they're trumpeting patriotism. These are the same guys who were letting military people come out on the field, celebrating them, and then we learned a little bit later they're getting paid millions of dollars by the Pentagon to be faux patriots. I mean, it's total BS.
Yeah, exactly. It's phonyism. Wrapping yourself around the flag because you know that the majority of your fans are going to be in favor of it, and the players are going to be vilified.
In your former life, you ran Northeast. What's it called? Sport and Society. One of the great things that talks about the impact of sports in the real world. When a kid hears the President of the United States say something about those sons of bitches, when a kid hears the President say this morning, maybe they shouldn't even be in this country, someone that they admire. What's the impact on that young person who doesn't understand all the politics going on here?
Well, there's resentfulness. There's skepticism that this is really their country. So we wonder why some athletes or some people might not find that the symbolism of the flag applies to them when you have the leader of the free world telling people that if they don't agree that maybe they shouldn't be in the country. It's so ironic that the video just came out of Sterling Brown from Milwaukee getting tased by the cops in Milwaukee.
Same day as this announcement was made by the NFL.
With 6 or 8 guys because he parked differently than he should have in the parking lot at 2:30 in the morning.
What's your reaction to this?
A lot of the football community came out pretty strong, in favor of, we're going to leave it alone. The president, he's being very divisive. It's disappointing that a lot of those stances, whether it be Bob Kraft or Tom Brady, have really kind of went to the back. They were up front at the beginning, and they were kind of joining the cause and kind of rallying their teammates, their black teammates, around that cause. But now they've been silent, and they've been voting, in favor of the league, which is in favor of what? Sponsors. Right when they had a chance to make the right move and show a little backbone. I mean, they're all billionaires. They don't need to make another dime. But when they were pushed just a little bit, they all said, "Oh, we're good. stay in the locker room.
We only have a minute left here. You guys know athletes and owners in all these leagues. Why are the leagues so different? People like coaches like Popovich from San Antonio, Kerr from San Francisco have been outspoken with their political views. They're not suffering anything. Why is the NBA in one piece of the world and the NFL
first of all,
in another?
forget 70%. The NBA is like 90%
African American.
And that's a lot different because then you look at the administrators, still not a lot, but a lot more. You look at the head coaches, still not a lot,
but why
a
are
lot
they?
more.
Why are
It's
they?
leadership.
Why?
It's about leadership because I think they have a more healthy appreciation of people and difference, and it's more of a meritocracy. There's more of a social justice bent because of the game of basketball and what it's meant, where it's come from, the communities that it's come from over the years in urban America. So they've been on the forefront for a long time.
You think the players, we only have 15 seconds, do you think players' response to this is going to be, I was going to say to stand up, but to kneel, to act?
Well, the fact that Colin Kaepernick still doesn't have a job may be a deterrent for a lot of them, but I think you're going to see a lot of guys stay in the locker room.
And Reed, one of his biggest supporters, is in the same boat without a job. We got to go.
Had they just
Peter, good to see you.
let it go, it would have gone away sooner.
Chris, take care. Good to see you both.
We lit the
gentlemen.
fire.
Appreciate it. Thanks.